everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Back at the Ranch, Expedition Online's after show. I am your host, Danny Knaub. With me, third place finisher, tearing it up. Taryn!
Hey Danny, how are you? Long time no see.
I was going to say, do we know each other?
I don't know. I think we played a game once.
And what game
like yesterday. No, it feels like yesterday. Online Big Brother. That was fun.
That is correct. And when did Online Big Brother end?
5 days before Expedition Online started.
And I don't think you told anybody in the game that you had just completed a game, correct?
No, I wanted to keep that to myself.
Taryn, I think that's going to be the theme of this episode because you kept a lot, close to you and your cards. And I feel like I'm excited to talk to you because I think that, especially watching your confessionals and just seeing your strategy, I think that a lot of people may have missed a lot of what you were behind and what you've done and what you accomplished. So I'm super excited to really highlight you. I mean, you're absolutely fabulous. You are a blast to watch. I mean, specifically, I have a few moments we're going to talk about. But for those that are watching, and this isn't to sound mean, but like you're not the biggest Survivor fan. Is that correct? Like you don't.
Yeah, it is correct. Like I watched Survivor growing up, and I kind of fell off when I went to college. Like I didn't have a TV in my dorm room, and so I've seen probably half the seasons. But it's like when I joined the tribe, Team Tyson, everyone was talking about this and that, and I didn't know what they were talking about. I was just nodding my head, like yes, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
So let's go all the way to the beginning. Like, why did you sign up for this?
Well, so a few people had told me that I would be really good. They said that my style of gameplay might be more suited to Survivor, and I was like, okay, like that's fair. And it's very different from Big Brother. Like there's not two people on the chopping block. Like anyone on the team's fair game to go home. So I thought I liked that aspect better. Like you had to work as a team rather than like kind of individually.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got picked for Team Tyson. I was stoked. I mean, I was the only person from Massachusetts not on Team Rob.
Well, did you at least know who Boston Rob and Tyson were?
Oh yeah. I know those people for sure. Like I remember seeing Boston Rob on his first season, and then didn't he fall in love with Amber? Weren't they both on the same thing? Yeah.
It wasn't All Stars. That was their second time playing. They fell in love. He proposed to her at the final tribal council where she was awarded $1 million and he got second place.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
See, I've seen it. It was just I can't remember everything.
Yeah. But I do remember playing Big Brother with you and knew that Expedition was happening. And I think I remember saying I think you would be good at it. But I remember asking you and you're like, oh, I missed the deadline. I didn't apply. So when
I seriously thought I did, and then I was told to send in a video, so I did.
Oh, so then I know when I saw your name pop up, I was like, she lied to me.
I didn't lie to you. I thought it was too late.
So all the way back to that first day, you kind of started to share, but when you were picked for Team Tyson, first of all, that night had to have been a blur. For everyone watching, you're all seeing everybody's audition videos, and Boston Rob and Tyson are handpicking their teams. So were you, A, what was it like to be chosen by Tyson? And B, what was your first impression of your full party?
Well, I was honored to be the first girl picked for Team Tyson. I think that's awesome. But yeah, I was surprised because, I was always kind of the last person picked in gym class and stuff for teams. So I was like, oh, but then he was like, I want to tear it up. And I was like, yay. So it felt cool to be wanted to be on someone's team. And when we met all of our teammates, we kind of realized that we were all really weird. I think we're very different from Team Rob. They seemed all very I don't know, just athletic and smart. And we were just all a goofy, crazy matchup of people.
Yeah, no, it's fun because I mean, looking at both parties, I think a lot of people thought Team Rob was going to have the leg up, and so it's interesting how the next few days are going to unravel for you. But just one thing I want to get out of the way, when I watch you in your audition video, when I watch you in your confessionals, you're very boisterous and loud and like tearing it up. And then when you're at camp, you're very sort of a little bit more subdued. Is that conscious or
I
strategy?
didn't want to be annoying. I didn't want to be like, oh my God, I can't stand Tara. Like, we need to get rid of her. Like, I didn't want to be too much.
No, everyone loves you though.
Yeah, I know that. I realize that now.
Stop. So we go into the first few days of the game, and there's no other way to put it. You guys absolutely destroyed Team Rob. So they lost four
Yeah.
challenges in a row. So in those early days, what was your strategy? And were you sort of vibing with anybody at the beginning? Because obviously you guys didn't have to do any votes.
Right.
Who
Yeah. So we kind of like, we all kind of talked as like a team pretty much the first few days because we didn't have to vote anyone out. So there wasn't really any struggle or too much of a strategy going on. My strategy in the beginning was just to kind of like make friends and have people like me. So if we did have to go, they wouldn't vote me out, they'd vote someone else out. And I kind of like formed this alliance with Rachel and Tom and Alex and Kimmy. Yeah, it was like the five of us. But like we never had to vote anyone out until Brandon once we switched, and that was a very easy vote. So I feel like our alliance was never really put to the test. And once we merged, it went to shambles.
Before we get all the way to there, in those early days, I think the biggest thing was the discovery that there was a compass out there, which is our version of the idol.
Oh, yes.
So this might be new to you because as someone that's not as big of a fan, were you?
I knew they had idols on the show. But what? Am I not allowed to say that?
No, you are.
Oh.
I just like making faces.
I know like there's a lot of code, like crossroads and like
Yeah, I know.
because I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, I'm gonna get myself in trouble for all these. I say all the wrong things. I try to like make it very user friendly. But on that second day, the lean in became the lean clue. Were you privy to that? Did you see that pop up? Did you try to find it?
I did see it pop up after a few people already went in, and then I saw Clinks holding up the clue, and I got the clue I think from Andy. It was like message him or something. And to be honest, Danny, after reading that first clue, I knew I was never going to find a damn compass the whole game. It just wasn't my vibe. I just wasn't. No. I just couldn't.
Well,
I just,
told like you wouldn't have needed one. You never got a vote.
no, I didn't need one. But I knew I wasn't going to find one. So then I was like, all right, well,
Yeah.
just not my thing. So, and everyone was spectating who had it. Honestly, like I didn't know who had it, and I couldn't trust like a single person to tell me that they didn't or did have it.
Yeah, it's my impression that no one knew that Kwa had the compass. Is that true?
It is like some people were telling me that Kimmy had it or Tom had it or this person had it. But it's like Kwa would be the obvious choice to have it because he's like a super smart Pokemon poker player.
Yeah. Well, he played it well because he actually did not go into the room.
Oh,
So,
right. Andrea gave him a clue, right?
yeah. So I think he was trying to play it up of like, I didn't go in there. So like, I wouldn't be the one and sort of help point some fingers elsewhere, which I think kind of caused a little chaos and confusion amongst all of you because you didn't really know who had it.
Yeah.
So in those early days, because I have Doc's point of view, because I just talked to him a little while ago. If you were to go to a crossroads in those first few days, obviously you just mentioned you had an alliance of like around 5. What you must have talked about it. Who were you thinking would go home? Who were you hoping that would go home if you had to go?
Well, when we first started, Jordan had mentioned getting rid of Andrea only because she wasn't logged in. But as the days passed, I really grew to really like her as a person and just love her and think she was amazing. So I didn't want to get rid of her. And Tom did. Tom just straight up was like, I don't like docs. Like I like having conversations with everyone but docs. So it was just kind of like he decided that he wanted to get rid of docs. So I feel like that's how most people would vote.
Okay.
Although I'm not sure because now I realize that Kimmy probably would not have voted docs out.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see how that how that would have unraveled. I think Docs had that same kind of feeling that, Tom was sort of against him and that he would have most likely been either going home or at least had to fight to stay. So,
Yeah.
so as you said, I'm not trying to make light of those first few days because they're still hard, but you guys had a fairly easy first few days of not having to go to Crossroads. You won the first 4 challenges.
Yeah.
Then we get into the swap. And again, like you're sitting kind of pretty. Like your alliance of
Yeah.
5 is together along with Jordan, and you have the
Yeah.
lone OG Team Rob member of Brandon. Are you guys? I was kind of in on that call, but were you all just sort of like, "Holy moly,
We
this is
could,
as good
yeah,
as
it
it gets
was
done?"
crazy because like as we started to pick, like my people like kept picking Team Rob, and then it was my turn, and I was like, oh, Team Rob, and then like the next person. So when there was at least 4 of us, we're like, okay, like we have the numbers, we're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think that so going into this challenge, the challenge is the one where you had the book on your head and you had to balance a
Yeah.
cup. Kimmy ends up winning, who's on the other, no, who's on your
Yeah,
part.
she was on my team, yeah. So we
One.
got to sit in on the very feisty roads with the
Yeah.
whiteboard. The
So,
whiteboard cross.
um, bef- so was it pretty easy? Were you all thinking we're going Brandon?
Yeah, it was. Although Brendan, he did put up a fight. He was in a room with like me and Alex, and he wanted us to like think about voting someone else out. And Alex told me she was like 50% listening to him, which that was like the first indication that Alex was gonna work with the other team as soon as we merged.
Okay, no, that's a good thing to note.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and so here you are at Crossroads, and you're watching what's happening in the other one. Obviously there's a lot of it's outed that Jake has a compass because Brandon is straight up saying, "Give me the compass, Jake. Give
Yeah.
me the compass, Jake." Um, then you have Brandon who's also outing Qua, saying like, "Vote out Qua." I think you and I want to say, I think a few of you started to kind of get in on the whiteboard action of just like, let's
Yeah.
throw up things and
I
just
wrote like I like turtles. I don't know. I was writing funny things. And then I think at one point I was like, don't use your compass or something. Like, don't do it.
yeah.
I don't know.
So, what was it like to be in that crossroads? Because that was definitely the first wild one of the season
It
in
was
ways.
it was very nerve-wracking because if Jake did give the compass to Brandon, we would have to vote one of our own out. And I think it could have been Tom, to
Yeah.
be honest.
Well, I mean, I think we see where that goes in a few votes. So I think that you're probably right. Um,
Yeah.
so obviously, then it's discovered that Qua has a compass because Qua plays it. Are you guys shocked?
No, I mean, I'm kind of happy that he plays it because then it gets rid of it and there's no speculation of who has it.
Yeah. So in that one crossroads alone, you had 2 compasses that were burned. They didn't need to be played because Jake played his, only had 1 vote against him. Qua played his, didn't have
Didn't have
to. Brandon sort of says that he, takes credit for kind of sparking a little of the distrust. And I think the fact that I think OE even said to Andrea, like, if you want us to trust you, vote Qua or something, So there's a lot going into why Qua felt uneasy.
Yeah.
Were you sad that Andrea went?
I was sad, especially because like Jake even voted Sam out. And if Qua hadn't voted Jake, then one of them would have gone home and the whole game could be completely different.
Yeah,
So it's funny how one person's like one decision could affect the whole rest of the game.
exactly. So then Brandon, I think, is an easy vote. He sort of knew it was coming. Then we get into the rendezvous, which again is our version of the merge. For most Survivor fans, that is, you obviously play to win, but
Mhm.
making the merge is sort of like that other thing you're fighting for. Because once you make the merge, you're on the jury. It's a
Yeah.
huge win in certain ways. So congratulations on making the merge.
Thanks.
But this is when things start to get interesting because,
Yeah.
and I want to get your take on it because I want to know how much you were involved. Because obviously on paper, it would look like the Team Tyson, OG Team Tyson, could stay together and just pick off the Robs.
It
However,
would be nice. That would be nice. And maybe I would have won. Who knows? But
but
no.
but so this next two votes, you have Rachel going home and Tom. Both were,
Yeah.
they were blindsided. So are you on board with this plan? Are you just going along? Are you part of this plan? I need some details.
Well, see, I knew Alex and Kimmy would be like the ones who would want to flip. And Tom was like at the top of my like hit list that I made in my confessionals. Like, I feel like the third day I wrote on my whiteboard that Tom was sketched. I took a picture of it just to remind myself that he's sketchy. And so I wanted to get Tom out. I didn't really know there was a plan to get Rachel out. So I wasn't in on that. And I didn't want Rachel to go home. I really connected with her. I don't know how she feels about me today, but yeah, no, I wanted Tom to go home, but then she like, it was a very fiery crossroads. And I think some people who might have voted out Tom switched their vote because of things that were said.
So at this,
But
oh, sorry, go ahead.
but no, I was gonna say that like I was talking to Qua and like he was like, we don't have to flip, we could just, vote out one of Team Rob. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, well, people want to make it hard. And then I told him that, Alex was thinking about voting with Brandon and switching it up on when we were on Team Rob. And Qua told Alex that. And then Alex told me that I told Qua that. And then she was like, Taryn, I thought I could trust you. And then I was like, who? So that was like the start of like our friend, like our trust in each other, like being weird.
Okay.
But
No, that's good to hear. So, but what you're saying is going into this crossroads, you were under the impression that it was Tom, and that was the
yeah,
only plan on the table, correct?
yeah. Going into Crossroads, I didn't think that Rachel was gonna get any votes. And then when she said what she said, I was like, okay, well, she's gonna get a few votes, but she actually got more than
Yep.
Tom. And then I was like, well, if I had clued Rachel in on the Tom plan, if she had voted Tom, it would have been a tie. And like, I don't know what would happen. Like, if she
So,
didn't vote for Owen, I don't know.
who was in the plan though? Like, who was supposed to vote Tom?
I think I know Alex was, and I talked to a few Team Rob, but I feel like they decided that if we all wanted Tom out, let's just I feel like in their mind they're like, if we get out Tom's like closest ally, we can just get him out next, and that's what happened.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Talking to Qua, he made it seem like it was Rachel the whole time. Talking to
Yeah,
Oe,
I heard after the fact that people were talking about Rachel before the game, but they didn't mention that to me. I don't know, because maybe they knew I was like close to her. I don't know.
yeah. And so, did you end up voting for Tom though? Correct.
Yeah, I did.
Do you know who
And
else?
I told him after. I know Alex did, and I don't really know who else.
Okay. So then going into the next game, which is the scavenger hunt, it's one of the expedition's favorite games.
Well, it was really fun, but I was not in the right room for that.
No, it's hard. I went out early in my season when I played that game because I overthought it type thing. So how is this an easy night for you guys? Is it just it's Tom or were
See,
you
here's the thing. I had talked to Tom and I told him straight up that I voted for him and that I was sorry, like, poor me, like, please forgive me, Tom, blah, blah, blah. And then Jordan, like, we and Jordan were talking and we were like, we were going to throw a vote on Jake. If some miraculous way that Tom had some kind of compass, then Jake would go home. Sorry, Jake, but like, that's what me and Jordan did. And like, I didn't tell people I voted for Jake. I actually told people I voted for Tom. And I don't know, in my mind, I was like, wow, Tom's going to not be mad at me that I didn't vote him out. Maybe he would give me a vote at the end, but obviously he was never going to vote for me. And I was not going to cut off Baby Yoda's head for nothing. So, yeah, I didn't vote for Tom. I actually voted for Jake. But I knew Tom was going to go home. Like, I knew we didn't have the votes, but I just wanted to be different and not vote with the majority and show Tom that, like, point, like, Tom didn't have any allies, so he wasn't that much, like, his threat level just kind of like went down a little bit for me.
yeah. And I was saying to Docs when we were talking a little bit a while ago, it felt like to me that Tom kind of stopped trying by that point. Like it was almost like he had sort of knew he was going home, and like, did he approach anybody about join me, Taryn? Like, let's flip on these people, or was he
No,
just
like he
sort
didn't
of,
even tell me who to vote for. And then I was like, oh, well, we can vote for Jake. Like, well, before we like left, I told him like, let's vote for Jake, and he ended up voting for Qua. And like at Crossroads, he told me to do the right thing, but he didn't ever tell me what the right thing was. So I was very confused, and I think he put way more effort into like trashing Alex and Kimmy with their unfinished resumes or whatever.
yeah, he was going more for the theatrics than maybe really thinking through trying to save himself type thing is what it felt like watching. Interesting. I love the fact that you voted for Jake, and I think this is also a testament to your gameplay, because again, I think that you were perceived, and you are a really nice person, so I'm not trying to say like perceived as, but like I think you were perceived as this sort of like, oh, I'm just going to go along with things, and yes, sure, and okay, fine. And you really were making some bold moves, and you were going against the majority, and nobody ever, I think, guessed that. I think they all just were like, sure, of course Taryn
Right.
voted
Yeah,
for
I think
Tom.
Jake was convinced that Qua voted for him because Qua was saying that he wanted Jake out. So
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I voted for Tom. I don't
Again,
know
just a
what.
testament to your game. And I that's why I love giving this opportunity for you to talk through like the full strategy and your full game, because I think it helps round you out as a player for sure. Um, so then we go into our next one, which is stacking coins on a butter knife. Kimmy wins this exemption. And this is
Yeah.
another one of those crossroads that I'm obsessed with, because it felt like, as a mod and as a spectator, that you all were telling Oe that you were voting for her. Like it was
Yeah.
basically everyone's like, we're voting you, Oe. Then I remember Qua at some point saying, I don't remember who he was with, but saying like, hey, I'm pretty sure Jess has a compass, and I'm pretty sure she's gonna play it for Oe. And Docs even said to me
Yeah.
that he thought the same thing. So, and you guys had a number system. So just what happened in this crossroads?
Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to shout out Kimmy and say thank you because she won a prize and she decided to split it into 4 and she gave me $25. So shout out to Kimmy. I actually won $50 during this game, so I am like the second best prize money winner. No, I'm just joking. I don't want to be like gloating, but like anyway. Um, no, but yeah, we had a number system based on their alphabetical order for who was left on Team Rob, and it was Jake, Jess, Owie, then Sam. And going in, we were, all planning to vote Oe, but then we switched it to Sam, but then people switched it back to Oe. And I was just like, rolling with the punches, like, I'll vote whatever you guys want me to do. And when we got into the crossroads, we had talked about before we actually voted, someone would shout out, like, let's stick with the plan to number 4. So they think we were voting Oe still, even though it was going to be Sam. And like, I honestly, like, if Qua had said something, if Docs had said something, I think people would have listened. And me, like, not wanting to like be a leader, I honestly didn't want to be in charge. I didn't want anyone to see me as a threat. I was gonna say something, but then I was like, well, you know what? If they do have a compass, they're not voting me out. So maybe they'll get someone out that was next on my list. And at that point, Qua was second on my list.
Yeah.
And Oe or Sam was on the top. So
Yeah, it's fascinating because talking to Docs, he said that very much like what you just said, he didn't want to be perceived as a leader. So he didn't want to shout out a new number. And then talking to Alex, she, I think, was starting to get closer to Jess. And so when you guys were starting to move the vote onto Sam, I think Alex was like, no, 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 no. I want Oe to go because that will give Jess to me, because Oe
yeah.
and Jess were close. So that was kind of, I think, so again, just a case of everybody having their own motives for something and then not always lining up in that sort of team mindset.
Yeah. I
So,
didn't care who went, Oe or Sam. I really didn't give a damn.
well, and that's a lot of people's thoughts too. So, and again, it's good for you. I mean, you're not making any waves and you're sort of staying under the radar a little bit. So, Jess plays her compass, ends up vetoing 7 of your votes for Jess or for Oe. So Oe stays, Qua goes home. Then we surprise you by saying like, "Buckle up, it's another double crossroads, yo."
Yeah.
So Oe wins. So it's pretty clear that it's down to either Jess or Sam. That's when Doc said he wanted to speak up. So he said, "Let's vote Sam." But you have Brandon who says, "Let's vote Jess." Where are you in
Wait,
this?
Brandon. Brandon, you mean Jordan?
Sorry, Jordan. I always mess up their names because I think it's like
That
the
was funny because Jordan had told me at one point he was gonna like start something, and I was so happy he did something. And I was like, it was funny. But
um,
yeah, at that point, um, yeah, I think everyone was just gonna listen to Fox over Jordan. And I even at one point I was like, yes, I have 4 peppermint patties here. Like, let's go with 4. So we all just decided to do that. And it was funny because Team Rob didn't know what we meant. So they like Jess thought she was going home because she had 4 letters in her name. Like Jake maybe thought the same thing. It was
yeah.
funny.
Well, and it's another one of those ways you're saying like that one small change could have changed the whole game because obviously Jess just had played her compass, so she didn't have anything to save herself. And so it was really a 50-50 shot between who was going to go. Because I don't think Jake was really in trouble in this particular vote. I think you guys had really,
Yeah, like
you know,
Team Rob, like they wanted to vote him out, obviously,
yeah,
out of the 3 of them left. Or no, 4 of them. They, you know, wanted him gone
yeah.
out of all of them.
So we lose Sam and we go into the next day. Kimmy wins exemption. This is the story time challenge. I think Kimmy at this point is really emerging as a challenge beast. I think that a lot of people are keeping that in the back of their minds. So this one has the twist for the crossroads that it's the lowest number of votes having at least one vote goes home.
Yeah.
You all looked confused.
Yeah, no, I understood it. I was like, all right, I can't get any votes or I need like 2 or more, right? And then Doc's like mentioned to vote for me and I was like, no, don't do that. I don't want that to happen because like I don't know what people I don't know if they understood it, so I didn't want them voting for me. So then it was decided Jordan and I was like, okay, I'll vote for Jordan. That's fine with me. Like I didn't want to get any votes, Danny. I really didn't.
Yeah. So my question to you is that this feels like a fairly straightforward vote because Owie was next on sort of the chopping block.
Yeah.
But just if you can remember, where was your mindset at this time? Because at this point, you guys have really gotten rid of most of OG Team Rob. So you have to have started to think like, here's the 3 I want to work with, or here's the 4. Where was your mind at that point in the game?
Um I feel like at that point I knew I wanted Owie gone. I wanted Kimmy gone as well. She was up there for me, but she won exemption. So then I was like, okay, well, she doesn't have exemption. If she has exemption, I think it's best to get a Team Rob out. And
With
that's the time where I started to get really close with Jake and Jordan. I think I don't know if it was that soon or maybe the next time, but I think it was that soon because we voted out Kimmy right after. Okay, yeah, that was when we started to kind of form like Team Goat, which like I don't know if I like that term very much, but
No, yeah, it's a rough term. In my season, it was funny because it was the superlative challenge, which we're about to get to, and it was named the GOAT. And in my head, I was like, that's greatest of all time. And so I chose the person who I thought was doing the best, and then everyone was like, no. And so that's yeah. So they make fun of me to this day for that. Um, so speaking of, you kind of have Team GOAT, which is, as you just said, yourself, Jake, and Jordan. And superlatives, I think, sort of help solidify you all as that. But I have to say, Taryn, you got all the good ones. So you were named kind,
it was.
genuine, trustworthy, naive,
Yeah, that's one's true. And threat.
stressed, and you tied for a few. So
Yeah, it was fun.
what are you thinking? Are you thinking that this could be used against you? Or are you
Yeah, I was like, holy
yeah?
crap, people are gonna think I'm like so awesome, and like, why would you not want me to win?
Well, because you had Kimmy as
I'm
winning.
amazing. Yeah.
Because Kimmy's named winning. You had Docs as calculated.
Yeah.
Alex was under the radar. I'm saying these because it's very clear that the team GOAT, like Jordan, was clueless. Jake was the clown.
Yeah, I feel like it almost kind of helped us. Like, oh, we're just fun people. We're not threats. And like Kimmy's winning all the things. Docs is super smart. Alex is making moves, but you don't really realize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this was another fun vote because Team GOAT clearly was going after Kimmy. What none of you knew at the time was that Alex had actually gifted her
Oh,
safety without power to Jess because they were close. And she had said, if Owie leaves, I want to show you that I'm on your side by giving this to you. And so Alex and wanted Kimmy out too, but like you weren't all talking. So you had these sort of two sides forming. Jess ended up going with you all, getting to keep her power. But talk to me, because at this point, you don't know that Alex gave a power. And your plan works. You guys get Kimmy out. What are you thinking?
I was like, awesome, until right after we learned about this power. And then I'm like, why, Alex? Why did you do that? Because I feel like that move kind of, I don't want to say like handed Jess the win because there still was the final exemption, but it gave her like the best chance to get there.
For sure. And it was fun to watch because after that one, watching you and Jake, it felt like, especially Jake, I mean, Jake was celebrating after this vote. I mean, being in the room with you all, it was like, I think I saw Jake saw the end. Jake was like, yep, I'm in the final three. He was claiming to Jess, like, I saved you, like this, you should have trusted me from the beginning. It
Yeah.
felt like there was a lot of celebration to the point where, like, because Alex, I remember, kept jumping in and being like, I just need you to know I gave a power. And I kind of saw you and Jake like not completely getting it right away. And you were like, okay, sure. And then it wasn't really until maybe an hour or so later where she really explained what she did. Also explained, like, I wanted Kimmy out. And did that sort of like,
I wish she was just straight up with me because before the Kimmy vote, she was like, what if there was an advantage, right? Where someone could leave and not get voted out. And I was like, that would be interesting. And she was like, yeah. And like, I freaking, what do I know? I didn't remember that advantage from the show. And she was like, yeah, like this guy. And I was like, oh, yeah.
well, it was
Didn't,
funny because to your point though, like as you said, you and Alex were sort of having a little bit of a breakup of sorts because you weren't trusting each other so much, a few things that happened. So I think for Alex, she was just trying to find a new game buddy to sort of have because so then we go into this. So obviously, Kimmy goes out. It's probably the first real like major blindside of the season. Probably the biggest vote in certain ways. As I said to Docs, really set up the finals. I mean, that really changed the whole path of the game. So going into the next challenge, which is the flip cup pyramid, it would appear, just appear, but it would appear that Alex and Docs are sort of on the outs because the four of you, were together on that vote. Alex wins the flip cup pyramid.
yeah.
Are you in your head just thinking like Docs has got to go? Like, because, or how do you
I
think this vote's going to go?
I was thinking about Docs because, Jess had this power, but like even Alex and Docs were telling me like, oh, if she doesn't use it, we're gonna vote her out, which that clearly wasn't the case. And I mean, like, they try to tell me that like they had to do it or they wouldn't be in the in the final, but that's not really true because like Jess had to win that final exemption to get to the final. It would be just like that. Like Alex or Docs would have to win the final challenge if they wanted to go with the final three and replace me or Jake or Jordan.
Yeah. So, but I mean, so obviously at this point you don't know that Jess has a compass.
No.
Are you good with that plan to get her out if she didn't leave, or are you thinking
I
differently?
mean, I was good. I was just a little skeptical because I felt like there was a compass still out there.
Ah,
And I even remember talking to Jake about it, and he was like, no, they're BSing you. There's no compass. The third, that advantage that Alex had was the third clue. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, I think these clues are all compasses, but like, I just didn't know who had the compass.
yeah.
But I had a feeling it was still out there.
So, okay, so you do feel like there might be a compass that is floating around. But I
Yeah. And that
guess, sorry.
it was the one time I was scared that I could go home, even though like I'm awesome and trustworthy. Like, I just feel like I don't know. Plus, but I do feel like Jordan did say Jess's name at that one crossroad, so that could have influenced the decision to like vote him over me or Jake.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question for you though is that, you know, you made this sort of big move by uniting with Team Goat and getting Jess to make that huge flip onto Kimmy. Was there any part of you that thought like, let's take this Final Four, or was Jess such a threat that you would never even consider it?
I would never consider not taking Jess out because at that point I saw that the jury was going to vote for her to win because of the compass play and because an advantage was given to her. I was like, those are like the moves of the century. You know what I mean? Like those are the moves that people care about.
Yeah. So as you said, Jess, I think, surprises everybody by not leaving. So
Yeah.
people put some votes on her, but she has another trick up her sleeve. She ends up having the compass, saves
Yeah.
herself. Jordan goes home. How are you all feeling? Because then you know she has a safety without power. Are you feeling defeated? Are you feeling?
I was I wasn't feeling I was feeling a little defeated because I knew my best shot at winning was to be at the end with Jake and Jordan. But then I was like, okay, you know what? I can still go to the end with Jake and then like maybe Docs or Alex. And Jess will go out next time if she doesn't win or she'll use her power so she just can't win the last challenge.
Yeah.
That was was going on in my mind.
Okay. So we get to the next vote, or and you know,
I won! I
like,
won the challenge.
so how are you so good at survival trivia?
I don't know. I I watch random YouTube videos and like random Facebook videos at like 3 in the morning. I actually saw this one video of this guy and he injects himself with like snake venom and like bee stings or like whatever. And he had this thingy that sucked out all the venom. So I just knew like that particular question, I just knew the right answer. And then the other ones I just kind of did like process of elimination. Although I got the one wrong about lying down in a rodeo stampede, and that was really embarrassing. I thought it was a trick question.
Can't get them all right, Taryn. Can't get them all right. So do you feel like you had to win that one, or was it just sort of like a nice thing on your resume?
I didn't feel like I necessarily had to win, but I wanted it to be me or Jake because then I feel like we would be safe. And if Alex or Docs wins, then it would just be the other person.
Yeah. So this one, obviously, we know that Jess is going to leave. That's the last opportunity she would have had to play that advantage. So you're basically like queen popular on this night because
Yeah, I did feel
really
like I had the
only person people can talk to, because you know there's only so many ways this could go. So it felt like the decision was really in your hands in certain ways. So how before, okay, so you win exemption, are you immediately like Alex has to go, or are you open for discussion here?
I was open for discussion. I heavily weighed my pros and cons for Docs and Alex. I wasn't going to get rid of Jake because at this point, him and I think I even know that him and the jury were not really friends. So it kind of reminded me of my past self. Anyway, the journey that was really oh man. So I was like, at this point, Docs had been straight up with me, and Alex, like, she just wasn't being fully like honest with me, right? The power and stuff. And then like part of me was like, maybe she would be crazy enough to take Jess to the end and make it really super hard. I mean, I don't think she would do that after all, but like you just never know. And I just at that point she just like didn't really tell me the full truth, and we weren't really being completely honest with each other. So I was like, all right, well, Docs, he can just come on to the next round. But I think that would be my biggest regret and my biggest game. Like I would have, if I could redo one move, it would be voting out Docs instead of Alex.
Interesting. And why is that?
Because I feel like Alex would have, no offense to Docs and his stamina ability, but I feel like Alex would have had a better shot at beating Jess in the final challenge because she's like won a few challenges.
No, it's interesting you say. I mean, those are the moments that really can make and break games sometimes. Obviously, we will never know because maybe Alex would have gone out in the first putting some sticks together. Like you never, but it's
Maybe I would
interesting.
pull that through. You don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, because it's interesting because you don't. I try to, for anyone who's watching these at home, I try to like reiterate. You guys don't have a lot of time to discuss all of this. And on this one, I believe was another live one where we were doing it on Robin Tyson's Twitch. So it's sort of like you have the challenge, and then immediately within like an hour, you're going to Crossroads.
Yeah.
You
Have
just
like a half hour or
yeah,
something.
so it's hard because you're everyone's in your ear, you're having people talk to you. Again, you were Queen Popular on this one. Everybody was trying to talk to you. Everybody did talk to you, I believe, likely pitching their case. And I think that it's hard to kind of sift through it and be like, okay, well, thinking to the next one because you don't know what the challenge is. It could have been
Yeah.
trivia. It could have been all endurance. It could have been none of the above. Like you're
Yeah.
having to kind of. This is season one, is what I'm trying to get ahead. Like no one knows
Yeah.
what to
Like,
expect.
and like Docs was good at like some of the challenges. So like I didn't know.
Yeah, for sure. So Alex leaves, just left the Crossroads. Alex is the one that ends up being voted out. Um, Alex, I really enjoyed watching Alex play. I thought she was a really fun personality. I will say Alex had like nothing bad to say about you. Alex is still Team Taryn. She was saying how much she missed talking to you.
Yeah, she's the one person I did like really just enjoy talking to and getting along with.
Yeah.
And I really wish we like were just straight up with each other.
Totally. And that's the thing is I think that I hope you guys end up talking outside of this because I think you would be really good friends. And just again, knowing your style this season was very under the radar, even though you had a hit list and you were going after people. I wondered if the two of you actually like were just honest with each other,
Like
if it would have been a different game. Because I think you two could have been like a power duo really running some stuff. But again, like I totally get it because again, for everyone at home watching, Taryn played Big Brother and it was a little bit of a flashier game. You were a challenge beast. You were more vocal about blindsiding people and really stepping up, and that ended up hurting you in the end because they were taken out at fourth. So I think that because there wasn't a lot of time between seasons, you kind of went into this one being like, that didn't work for me. So I need to
lay low, and I need the jury to like me. That was my 2 points coming into this.
Yeah, well, and they did. I mean, I think you were clearly you were voted nice, and love it, whatever all the good, nice, happy terms were. So now we're at the final four, which congratulations, it's a huge accomplishment in this game. That means you have played, as far as you can go, essentially. But the last challenge wasn't really for you. Talk to me and just describe to people at home, how hard is it to tie sticks together and get a thing of keys up?
They kept falling apart, Danny. Like my knots just weren't tight enough. I feel like I would have done better at the other two parts of the challenge, but this one was the first part, and it wasn't in the cards for me to advance further, so my fate was in the others' hands at that
I
point.
think that everybody had said at some point that you were going to the end. So I think you were pretty solid for a final three from almost like 7 people left on type thing. You also
It
did a
was just a matter of like who was I gonna be with.
what?
It was just a matter of like who was I going to the end with.
Yeah.
It was like, is it gonna be me, Docs, and Jake, or is it gonna be me, Jess, and Docs?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so you did 100 squats to get some extra sticks. That still didn't help. Jake is
No.
miraculously really good at this. In his Back at the Ranch episode, I actually had him show me the knot and explain to me what he did, and it was really smart. But it ended up not working out. You were out. Are you rooting against Jess? Is it safe to say?
Yeah,
Like
kinda, yeah.
anybody but Jess can
No
win.
offense. I just feel like we all kind of knew that if she went to the finals, she was gonna win.
Yeah. So Jake goes out second by getting the second question wrong. So now you've got to be like biting your fingernails because it's down to
It's-
Docs and
That
Jess,
was
and it's
yeah.
and
Second challenge. The second challenge was the one I felt like Jess had to go out with. Otherwise, she would probably take the last one home,
yeah.
especially against Docs.
It's funny because when I was talking to Docs, I even said to him, I was like, "How nervous were you?" And because he didn't, and I said this to him, like he did not look good in that challenge. Like he never looked comfortable.
Yeah, his hand was like, I don't know, I was scared for him.
And he said, he's like, "Oh no, I thought I was gonna win." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so, like I didn't mean to, again, like I'm not at all trying to knock him. It just, she was very poised and like straight, and he was very just like, it just
Yeah.
didn't look like he was comfortable, but he was like, "No, I was just in a little pain, but I was planning to fight to the end," because he knew in his head, he said, "This is my chance. If I don't win this, I'm not winning." So Jess wins.
Yeah.
And, you know, it felt pretty clear that she was wanting to get out Jake. Um,
Mhm.
Full disclosure, when we as spectators are able to watch you live on Twitch, there's a chat room made up of like previous Survivor Online players, previous exemption, pre-jury, a lot of us are on here. And most people said like, she needs to take out Docs because if she doesn't take out Docs, there's a chance, that like that was an easier move for her. Are you thinking
Mhm.
that, or are you just sort of, I mean, obviously it's anybody but me, but did
See,
you have a preference of who she took out there?
obviously, I would rather have Docs leave than Jake, but I was under the impression they had me convinced that if it went to a tie, I'd be going home by default.
It would have
Right?
been,
Like, 2 votes Jake, 2 votes Docs. Oh, Rocks. Oh, Taryn, you're the only one left. You're going home. That's what I didn't know how this really worked.
well,
So again, if I could do a second thing over, I would have vote Docs out and let them battle it out.
yeah. You could have asked officially like to Andy, and we would have cheered
That's just
for you.
me and my niceness. I don't ask things.
What would have happened is that if it went to a tie, you would have been asked to vote again, but then it would have only
Mhm.
been, it would have been you
Me
and Jess that would have been the ones voting. So you would have had to convince Jess to flip with you, which I don't think she would have done. And if
Right.
she
So
did
what happened?
flip and it was another tie, then it would have gone to Rocks, and by default, you would have gone home.
See?
But you could have
See?
tried to see if you could have flipped Jess, and if she wouldn't, then you would have had to kind of stick with what your plan was. But that would have been the strategy there. Is if but again, I think her mind was made up. She was very,
She wanted me to vote out Jake instead of Alex.
yeah.
So I just knew that her
But I
mind
guess
wasn't.
like in those final moments, is there any part of you that feels like it was worth trying to get her to change her mind, or were you just too nervous because it's like I don't want her to flip on me?
Well, I feel like if she did vote out Docs, I feel like she would have still won, but maybe I would have gotten a few more votes or any votes at all.
Yeah,
I feel like if she got Docs out, I would have maybe gotten a vote.
I think you would have gotten a few, honestly.
Yeah, but I still think she wins in any scenario.
I think she
And
wins.
like that's not like doubting myself. That's just like knowing the jury and knowing that they appreciate the moves that but like I didn't have an advantage. Like I literally couldn't make those moves.
Well, no, I
I
mean,
just rolled with my head, man.
here's the thing though, is that, and we'll get into the final three now, well, we are, but you played a good game. There's nothing that you should beat yourself up for. I mean, you made it you made it where 15 other people wanted to be, and that was
Yeah.
for an opportunity to plead your case. So again, we're in the final three. We know where this goes. What is your strategy going into final three? Because you get a 5 minute
Right.
window to talk. What are you gonna try to say?
I wrote down on my whiteboard all of the points I wanted to make, like with my whole like avoid the fluster, blend in with the cluster. That was my motto. And I just wanted people to realize that if even though they didn't think I was making moves, I like kind of was in my own way and in my own mind.
Yeah.
And I did go back and I watched the chat and I appreciate everyone who said nice things to me in the chat.
Um, well, I mean, that's what this is about. But
Well, I feel like the first two questions, or maybe not the first two, but I feel like Tom and Rachel's questions were kind of like, well, there's really no point because Rachel was definitely the person who wanted to get rid of Team Rob first. And she was like, it's crazy how a Team Rob member is still sitting here. Like, I'm voting for Jess. So, like, at that point, I kind of knew. Plus, when Sam told me that it was nice to get third, I just kind of knew that no one was seeing my way.
Yeah. Well, and just to be full disclosure with you, the jury is asked to write their questions ahead of time. So
Right.
I think that I would have to talk to that because I haven't talked to the jury, but I think that you really showed up, and you obviously would have saw that in the chat because I was very complimentary. I thought you. I don't know if I'm supposed to. What opinion I'm supposed to have. I thought you were I thought you were really good in the finals. I thought you made points. I thought you were direct. I really thought that you were going to start to pull some of the votes away from Docs a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I I think what happened is that people were like, well, Docs could win if I give him my vote. And I would rather have, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, oh, Taryn doesn't have a chance. I would vote for her, but I think Docs needs my vote.
yeah,
Whereas it really wasn't the case. Like, they could have voted for Docs. They could have voted for me. Jess still would have won.
yeah.
Like I said.
So I do wonder if
Yeah.
people were allowed to see your confessionals early, if that would have changed anybody's mind. Because again, like, you made a conscious decision to play a certain way and it worked. You made it to the end. Like, it
Yeah.
did what it was set out to do. But I think people did not quite see the gamer in you, which was there because you were really helping make moves and you were standing up for yourself and you were taking risks and all that. So
Yeah, I kind of felt like the most valuable pawn, right? Because it's like Team Rob would approach me and they would want this person out. And then like my people were like, I want this person out. And I was kind of like, well, who do I want to vote with? Like I felt like I don't want to say I had all the power, but I feel like I had, like my vote like really mattered when people were like, I don't know.
yeah. Um, so obviously it didn't go your way. Third place is still great. It's better than what you did in Big Brother. So you're moving on up.
I moved up in the world.
Exactly.
But it's like, no, like I know Jake said that like he wanted me to go to the ends just so I could go. Like I didn't want to just make the finals. I just said that out. I did want to like make a case and win, obviously. I mean, who wants to just go to the finals and not win?
I know. No,
I don't know.
I get it. I mean, this is a game, and you took a very specific strategy and it worked. Like, that's all I'm trying to say. Like, it did work. It just didn't get you the win in the end. But
Yeah,
15
I
other
do feel
people
like
were
it's
voted out before
really
you.
impressive for Jess to be, because she was four people left on a team, and people on my team decided to consciously like keep them around.
Yeah. No. But, again, I want to say that you played a really great game. It was fun to obviously watch you because I knew you. No one
Like,
knew that we knew each other, but it
oh
was
my
fun.
God, it was so hard to like not pretend like I would like be playing the game and someone was like, "Oh, a moderator." I'm like, "Oh, moderator Jonathan," or moderator Danny, or "Oh, moderator Kevin." Like,
Yeah. No, and it was funny too because like I would catch you say certain things because they'd be like, "Oh yeah, like Danny like talked to us today," and the thing you're like, "Oh, I've never heard from a mod. I never said anything to me," and I was like, "Taryn."
I remember I was in a room with Jonathan alone and I was like, "Tell Denise I said hello."
Um, so as we wrap up a little bit, was there anything in that final crossroads that shocked you, or did it go pretty much how you thought it was going to go in terms of what people asked you or said? Or
I was kind of shocked by Rachel and how like I feel like she was still upset over herself getting um what's the word? Sent home. I don't want to say evicted because that's not the
yeah,
right word.
voted out,
Sent home.
sent home.
Voted out. And like I don't, cause like in my mind I thought, I was like, oh, well, I didn't vote for Rachel. Maybe she would like me and vote for me. I told Tom I voted for him. Became honest with him, and I didn't vote for him the second time. Maybe he would vote for me, but that was not what I thought would
Yeah.
happen.
Well, you're no stranger to juries that have strong feelings, that
Yeah.
you don't always understand those strong feelings, but to each their own. This is an emotional game, and it really, it brings out different sides to people. And, all I know is that it was an absolute blast to watch you, and I was really proud of your game. I was glad to see you get to the end. It was fun to see a different side of you because this was definitely a different Taryn.
Yeah.
You know,
Were people doubting me? You can tell me. Were people doubting me from the beginning where they're like, oh, she's not going to last in this cutthroat world?
which people?
I don't know. I
No,
don't know if there was anyone who was like, "Oh, poor Taryn." Like, I don't know.
no, it's funny. I mean, honestly, I want to say that you had a lot of fans from the beginning. I think people really liked your energy, and I think people really liked watching you. I mean, to that point, like, and again, we kind of skipped over this, but like the things that stood out to me was the can challenge when you were just, I mean, it was like a
That was
one
really
person
hard.
spit bomb, and you were just like, ah! Just like screaming and just having fun and outlasting like all these like men, and you're just like, you
I
know,
can't believe I lasted that long because in Big Brother I didn't last that long with the book on my hand.
no, I mean,
That was like 11 minutes, and I
yeah.
lasted double that in the can challenge.
And I think that your confessionals were a lot of fun to watch. So I think you actually had a lot of people that were
Those
feeling
were fun.
really good about you. But again, like on our side, we can see a little bit more of the strategy than like players inside the game. So I think outside the game, people, I think you had a lot of fans. I just think that Jess was a really hard person to win against because of everything we've already talked about in.
Yeah, she made awesome moves and she was really smart, and I am like happy she won. I mean, obviously everyone wants it to be them, but
Yeah.
I do like congratulate her.
Uh,
Can I ask you a question, Danny?
what?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As someone who has now won a Survivor Online and a Big Brother, would you ever throw yourself back into the ring, or do you think you'd be too much of a threat that they'd can your butt as soon as you got in there?
Well, it's funny because that was going to be my final question to you is, would you do this again?
Oh,
You say no?
I would definitely do this again. If like 5 seasons from now they asked me to come play with people who've been on it, I'd go.
Yeah. Um, I always go back and forth. I think I would only play if it was a season of people who like fresh faces that no one knew me, or a like all winner season or like an all-star season where there would be like multiple winners, multiple threats. Cause then I think I could kind of blend in a
Work
little bit
your
more. But no,
charm.
like, I would not just go on and play against like people who haven't won because then I would just be easy. So, um, any final thoughts? Anything that we haven't discussed that you want to bring up or?
No, I had a lot of fun doing this, and I made some friends I know like I'll be friends with for like ever. You know, Jake is really nice, and you know Alex and everyone's Kimmy. They're all really awesome people. Docs, like we all added each other on like Instagram and Facebook, and I just think this is an awesome thing you guys started to do, and I really think that it's a great way to bring people together. And it is a game, but at the end of the day, I feel like the friendships are far more valuable than any prize money. Except for like $1 million, like that would be like a big deal. But
Well, there you have it. I think we end on that. That's a really sweet message. It's very true. Welcome back to the fun side of things. Again, Taryn, you were an absolute joy to watch. Definitely one of a kind, always kept it interesting. So thank you so much for giving us fans the opportunity to watch you play this game Expedition. And to everybody at home who has watched, thank you so much for tuning in. We have 2 more episodes to go, so head out to listen to Doc's episode and then the final one with Jess. But thank you so much for tuning in with me all season. Taryn, I know I look forward to talking to you outside of this, but this is it for Expedition. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
thanks for having me. This was fun. Bye, people.
Everyone.